Welcome back to another episode, edition, whatever you want to call it, of Out of Touch. John Alden and Dustin Shooty with you today. No Mitchell Page. Mitchell informed us right before we were going to start recording, or just a few minutes before we got on here. He just won third place in a golf outing. I don't know if it was a tournament or a scramble, however it was. I'm not much of a golfer myself, as many of you have probably learned in the past from our conversations with Mitchell about golf. But nonetheless, he loves golf, and evidently he's pretty good at it because he and someone else who he was with are out in, I guess he said Scottsdale. Do you think he means Scottsdale, Arizona?
Oh, he definitely means Scottsdale, Arizona. Yeah, that's a big
so
golf.
He's out in Arizona and got third place in the golf tournament, and I guess we'll have to get his story on that next week. But shout out to our man Mitchell Page for his golfing endeavors.
Yeah, he had to stick behind for the ceremony of champions, apparently. So, awesome job getting third place. I finished third place, but usually there's just three of us playing. So, his is a lot different because there's probably like 100 teams, or well, maybe not that many, but there's probably quite a few teams that are participating in this. So,
I gotta say, whenever I was in high school, I did two sports. I did soccer and I did track. And I was good enough at soccer to say that I was, I'm happy with how I was as a soccer player in high school. But in track, I mean, you can see my build. I mean, if you're looking on YouTube, I mean, I wasn't much different. I was a little thinner and in a lot better shape back then, but I was far from being good at track. And I used to get so excited if I would even ribbon, if that even makes sense, like get a 6th place ribbon or something like that. And a lot of times those were at meets where you were going against people who, weren't even, they were just like you. None of you were good. So it was more of a way to stay in shape for me than an actual competition, I guess. What
event did you do, or what events did you do?
I did 200 meters, and I did, what else did I do? I didn't do any of the long distance stuff, which is honestly probably what I should have done, but I hated it. But I did a lot of the shorter sprint type events, which again was never very good at it. Did what I needed to do. I showed up every day and it was fine, but I was far from good at it, to say the least.
So I didn't do track because I run now, but I don't like it. I just do it to stay in shape. But the requirements to get a varsity letter at our high school in track were not that steep. So all you had to do was attend 80% of the practices and 80% of the meets, and you would get a varsity letter. So the
just attend them, not even actually participate in an event. You just had to show up.
Just be there, man. That's just the bare minimum. So I think it was our senior year. I didn't participate because I was not on the team, but members of the track team did create T-shirts and had bulk T-shirts made that said, where I went to school was called Lewis Cass, and it said Lewis Cass track, all it takes is 80%.
I love that.
So I think they were sold them for like $10 or $15 or whatever, but there was our school was probably, gosh, I don't know, there was 120 in our graduating class, something like that. So you're talking about a school of 243, trying to do quick math, 500 to 600 students at the high school. And they probably sold 100 of those T-shirts, I would bet, at least.
Wow. I mean, it's a good way to make fun of yourself, I feel like.
Right.
So props to them. Again, welcome into Out of Touch. If you haven't already, hit that subscribe button on YouTube and share the show. If you like the show, share the show. And I know what you're thinking. No one wants to see this crap on my time on their timeline. Who wants to watch a show called Out of Touch? I know I wouldn't want to. Or would you? If you may be here right now and you're like, maybe that's the exact reason that you clicked on this show. There's a show called Out of Touch. What could they possibly be talking about? And sometimes I don't know what we're going to be talking about. Other times I know exactly what we're going to be talking about. I think the rule is that there really aren't any rules yet. Maybe that's a fault. maybe there needs to be more of a structure to the show sometimes. And again, like
No.
for example, last week we started the weekly funny town names that we're going to get into again. This week it's with Alaska. We've also got a caller. Dustin, I don't know if you remember last week, but I made a call to action. I wanted somebody to call in and let us know if they're also someone who takes dumps with the door open.
Yep,
and I am happy to say that we have a response. So I'm excited to
and
play that call on the show.
Mitchell's not here, so he can't complain about it.
I am very disappointed he's not here to hear it. Maybe he'll go back and listen, or maybe if it's worthy enough call, maybe we'll play it again for Mitchell, because I do think his response to it would be ideal.
It would be funny. Can we do a call to action where we say, if Mitchell listens to this episode, I want him to call in next week.
And we listen to Mitchell's call?
I want to listen to Mitchell's call in response to the call that we're about to listen to at some point in this show.
That's not a bad idea. So, Mitchell, if you're listening right now, I mean, thank God you made it 7 minutes into the nonsense. Mitchell, leave us a call to yourself, I guess. 502-830-9195. And does he have to say anything in particular, or?
Yes, he has to say, future Mitchell, this is past Mitchell.
And then from then on, it's
the only rule is there are no rules.
Oh, there we go.
Let's dive right in.
I'm down with that. And also, if you want to give us a call with whatever you want to talk about, hit that hotline, 502-830-9195. And another thing too, Dustin, and I feel like we needed Mitchell for this pseudo podcast meeting question that I'm gonna bring up. Last week, Mitchell brought up that I need to change the YouTube channel, and I guess maybe the Spotify channel as well, away from just my name. Yeah. And I kind of get the point in that, because in terms, especially if we want people to subscribe and make it easier to find the show. But here's what I thought of, and there's pros and cons of this. What if I renamed it, switched it to Out of Touch Media? So therefore, it's not just associated with the podcast; it's just the whole brand. But the con to that, I feel like, is I have to settle with everything being under the label of Out of Touch, which I'm not sure if I haven't decided if that's the future. You know what I mean? Is everything going to be the Out of Touch umbrella, the Out of Touch Media?
Well, I think maybe. So if it's just Out of Touch Media and we have different properties in there, then I think that works. It's like this was the brainchild of a summer of texting and talking about nonsense. And so that's where we birthed the Out of Touch Media. It feels so official, by the way. If you just said Out of Touch Media, that feels very official. It's like
there we go. You're convincing me, to say the least. And I do gotta just, I guess this is nostalgia at this point, but I remember being in my kitchen, not my kitchen, the kitchen at work at iHeart, when I thought of the idea. I'm like, we knew we were gonna do a podcast. Sorry, I just got an Amber Alert on my phone. We knew we wanted to do a new podcast, and whenever you want to do that kind of thing, we were moving away from the football podcast. We were just trying to think of different things that would make sense for Dustin and I, and then we knew we wanted to include Mitchell as well. And for some reason, Out of Touch popped into my brain. I knew where I was when I sent the message to Dustin, and you were on board immediately. But that's where we're at. We're now 19 episodes into this. We are nearing the end of the year, and I'm happy with where we are. Obviously, growth is a process, and I'm very thankful where the amount of people that listen and those who listen regularly. So thank you for that. And we look forward to doing some new things in the future for sure. And I've got a couple of ideas that I haven't fleshed out all the way yet. One of them, I thought of it earlier, or I didn't think of it earlier, but I thought of a way to incorporate talking about it today. I've thrown around the idea of wanting to interview new and upcoming musical acts, bands, artists, that kind of thing. And I'm not talking about people that most of you probably heard of, because obviously I don't have that kind of reach to grab those kind of people. But I love music, and many of you who've listened since the beginning of this know that. And Dustin, I know most people love music to a certain extent, but there are certain smaller bands and acts that I would love to reach out to and just talk to them about, what they want to get out of their career, what they've done so far, kind of, what their music's about, just things you would want to talk to newer or more established artists about as well. But it's an opportunity to kind of, I guess, kind of give and take. You expose them to a different audience and they expose you to an audience, that kind of stuff. So again, it hasn't been fully fleshed out, but I did want to kind of explain that to those who listen or watch. That is one kind of aspiration I have for the show in the future. What that looks like, I'll figure that out in due time. But that's definitely an aspiration of mine. I think it could be fun.
That's it. It sounds great. I used to work. People probably don't know this, but when I lived in Orlando, I worked at Disney Springs, which is like the shopping restaurant area in Disney World, and I worked at House of Blues there. So one of the cool things was occasionally you would get to see a show from a performer that maybe you hadn't heard of at the time, but now they've hit it big. So one example, when I worked there, nobody knew at the time who Dua Lipa was.
Wow.
And she performed, I think her song at the time, or was like just starting to get on the radio, was New Rules. I think that was the song. I can't remember for sure. But I remember seeing her like before she was big. And so I think whether or not whoever we talk to hits it big or not, it's always interesting because everybody has to, whether it's a band that's been doing this for 30 years or a band that's been doing it for 30 days.
30 days, yeah.
Everybody's got to start somewhere. Everybody has to take this path. Some people just have more success. Some people have better luck, whatever the case is. But it's always, that stuff's always interesting to me because
you want to hear their stories. I don't think I really got that across as well, earlier. But sometimes I stumble over my words, just the way things work in this business.
Music comes from a deep place.
It does.
So it's always interesting that they've always got, there's usually some sort of very interesting backstory. Like one of my favorite things to watch in terms of like documentaries on these different streaming services is always like a musical or a band documentary, because there's always some sort of battle that they're fighting or addiction or something that they grew up with, some sort of trauma that they're dealing with. And it's just interesting how they use music as an outlet.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's really what everything in the creative, sphere of things, whether that be in music or I guess art, basically anything that you can think of that fits that same kind of general, topic, I guess. It's all a way of expression in a way of, and honestly, that's what we're doing here too. Like this is a way for us to get out things that are on our mind and also find unique ways to entertain people, if that's what you want to call this. I don't know how entertaining we actually are. We do our best.
We help people feel better about themselves because they're like, Jesus, thank God we're not these guys.
Honestly, and if there's anything that I think I want to, I guess an internal goal I've always had with not even just this podcast, but just, I guess, life in general, is being able to relate, not being afraid to share our own stories at times and putting those things out into the open for other people to not only get entertainment out of, but be able to relate to and realize that they're not the only people who deal with certain things like that. Yeah. So with that being said, let's dive in. And again, just like last week and the next several weeks, we're doing the town names. But this time, Dustin, I'm taking your suggestion and I'm putting you on the spot.
All right.
Fake versus real for Alaskan town names. Okay.
All right. I like this game.
I don't know how many of these I'm going to do, but I've got a list of fake names. I've got a list of Alaskan names, and we're going to pit them head to head. And then once I reveal which one is the real name, there is a little, I'll give a little tidbit fact on what the name is. So,
all right. Perfect.
All right. In Alaska, which one is real? Hoonah or Tuckless River?
Hoonah or Tuckless River? I'm going to go Tuckless River.
That is incorrect. And I wish I had a buzzer or some like background music for this. Maybe
like
we'll do that. Maybe we'll add that to it next week. Add some like game show type music to this.
The Price is Right fail, like the boop boop boop.
Exactly. So yeah, incorrect. 0 for 1. Hoonah. The name is a little odd, but the meaning holds its weight. Huna, in whatever language, means village by the cliff or place protected by the north wind. One of the most unique towns in Alaska. And at least that's what it says. I guess unique is kind of subjective. So who the heck knows?
I need to know, are you coming up with these? Like, did you just come up with a name?
The fake names are not mine, unfortunately. I wish I came up with them.
Okay. All right.
I wish I could take credit for that. All right. Next up, we have Costco versus Dead Horse.
Oof. I'm going to pick Dead Horse on this one.
That's right.
Yeah.
I feel like Dead Horse is almost a name that's like, it seems so unrealistic. It has to be the real name in this situation.
Right.
So apparently this town is mostly home to workers on something that's known as the North Slope. The actual population of this town, Dustin, how many people do you think live in Dead Horse, Alaska?
176 with like 70 dead horses.
35 people supposedly live in this
Wow.
town.
Okay. Does it say how it got its name? Like, I assume there was a dead horse involved.
You know, I don't have the the origin of the name, but I would, if I had to guess, if we were creating the origin story for this town, I would assume that the settlers, one of the 35 people who live here, whenever they were just looking for a place to live, they're like, you know what, we're gonna set up shop over here, right next to that dead horse, or a few steps away from that dead horse, and the rest is history.
You know what? Every town's got to get its name somehow.
I mean, it's just like there was one similar to that last week. I don't remember which one it was in Alabama, but something about bacon or frog legs or something.
Like
I don't really
lower
remember.
level bacon or something.
Yeah, it was something silly like that. All right, let's do two more. So this time we have Raw Hit River versus Iditarod.
Iditarod's got to be real.
Yeah, it seems like it has to be, and it is. Iditarod, obviously, the race.
That one's too
Does it
easy.
take place in Alaska or just in that general vicinity? Yeah.
In that general vicinity, what else is out there?
That's a good point. It's also hard to wrap your mind around that Alaska, like the actual size of the state, is actually nearly the size of the entire continental United States, isn't it?
I don't know my geography that well, but what's amazing to me is that people decided that they were going to chain a bunch of dogs together and then start racing them.
See, I feel like that had to have started not recreationally. Like, people used it as travel. They're like, man, we've got to get around this, this snow and whatever and ice. And they found these wolves, or I don't know, it probably wasn't as simple as this, but they found some animals and eventually got them to befriend them and train them to, not carry them, but, guide them around.
Did it start as wolves? Because
facts are optional on this show, as usual.
They're probably primarily huskies, I would assume.
Yeah, that's probably true.
I need to learn some Iditarod facts for next week's show.
Apparently the Iditarod town is an Alaskan ghost town. It was abandoned after all the gold was removed from the Iditarod River, which is right next to it. So if you visit Iditarod, Alaska, you're not going to find any living human beings. At least I hope you don't. So, all right. One more. We've got, I'm not even going to try to pronounce that. I guess I have to, don't I? Ports K Grove versus Unalaska.
I'm going to say Ports K Grove.
That's incorrect. And by the way, this is spelled NKPORTSQUE Grove.
Yeah,
so,
I got
whatever that is. But Unalaska or Unalaska, I'm trying to see what it says. So apparently the name means near the peninsula. So I guess with that, like, the little tail that sticks out on the western end of Alaska, I'm guessing it's somewhere along those lines.
So it's interesting that we did Alaska today, because I just read on Twitter about this town in Alaska where basically the entire town lives in this giant apartment building. And I saw this on Twitter, and since we were just talking about Alaska, I'm going to read it. So bear with me. This is like a fireside chat. All right? Because this is a little bit it's not like a book, but it's lengthy for a Twitter post.
Yeah, a little story, I guess, for us.
Let me clear my throat here. Pound the chest a little bit here. I'm probably going to mess up.
You need a podium and a microphone is all you're missing.
I do need that. The town of Whittier, Alaska is known for having nearly the entire population living in a single apartment building. The building is called the Beekich Towers, a 14-story apartment complex that houses about 90% of the town's residents, a total of 272. This has earned Whittier the nickname of a town under one roof. The building, originally constructed as an army barracks, now serves as a cozy condominium featuring a post office, general store, police station, laundromat, health clinic, mayor's office, and a heated indoor pool. Whittier, Alaska is accessible only by air or through a single-lane tunnel that stretches over 2 miles through neighboring Maynard Mountain. That's a good name, too. The town's weather conditions can be harsh during winter, making the Beekich Towers a convenient and practical living solution for the residents. In addition to the Beekich Towers, there is a second condo building in the town where the remaining residents live. The town's school and gym are located in a separate structure, but are connected at the Beekich Towers by a tunnel, allowing for easy access during the winter months.
So it intrigued me the more you were talking about. I was like, what does this place actually look like? So I pulled up a photo. If you're on YouTube, you can see this. And I'm guessing the building right here that I'm circling. Can I zoom in on it? There we go. I guess I can. This is the apartment thing that you're talking about, isn't it?
It is. And I don't know if it's actually pronounced Beekich. That's the best I can do. It's Begich. So Betchich. I'm just going to go.
And so the entire town lives within this like little semi-rectangular
it does
area.
Do you know what this sounds like to me?
What?
Jail. It sounds like jail.
Jail.
Like everything you need to do is in this building. You can't leave because it's too cold. Like that's worse than jail. If I had imagined hell, this is what that would be. Because while it is, I'm sure it's very convenient for everything to be in one spot and you don't have to go outside when it's like negative 75 degrees outside. But imagine like just living in an apartment building and never leaving.
These people were probably pretty good at COVID lockdown. That was a thing.
They were probably the most hostile during COVID lockdown. They're like, please, this is the one time of year we can go outside.
I just can't imagine, like, if you're somebody who's grown up in this, I don't even want to call it a town, even though I guess it technically is, in this area, and this is all you know. I can't imagine what your reaction would be when you see real civilization for the first time. Maybe as a kid, that's one thing, but like if you've grown up here, let's just say your first 15 to 18 years of your life, and you graduate high school, which I'm sure is in the basement of that apartment building or something stupid like that. Once you finally graduate and go out into the world and all you've known is this little crevice of society, I can't imagine how, unprepared you would be.
Have you ever seen the movie, shoot, now I just lost the name of it, Blast from the Past with Brendan Fraser?
I've not.
And who's the guy that everybody can do an impression of? Why am I blanking on his name?
Joey Maldonado, or no, he's the guy who does impressions.
Yeah, he's the famous actor. Why can I not think of his name?
Is he? And what's the movie called?
Christopher Walken. Is the actor's name? It's called Blast from the Past. So basically, it's supposed to be set in the 1960s, and they think it's like during the Cold War. And a plane crashes into their backyard. This family believes that there's been nuclear warfare, so they go into like their bomb shelter, where it's basically everything they need. Groceries for X amount of years. I don't remember how many years, like 30 years or something. And anyway, so Brendan Fraser, their son, is down there. That's all he knows his entire life.
And that's the premise of it?
Yes. It's all he knows for his entire life is being in this bunker where he learns everything. That's where he does his school. And then he's tasked with going above ground for the first time and just has no clue how the world works. That is what I imagine if you lived in those apartments, that would be like. if you went to like a different, maybe not Alaska, because I feel like I've never been, but I feel like a lot of Alaska would be very similar. Not that everybody lives in the same building, but like it's a
Well, I
different
remember
way
you
of life.
mentioned a couple weeks ago when we did our kind of a segment on places we want to visit, the bucket list places. You mentioned Alaska being one of your top places.
Doing an Alaska cruise. And this week, when Abby was here, she said she wanted to do an Alaskan cruise. So I don't even have to twist arms to go on my Alaskan cruise.
Well, there you go. You may be doing it sooner than you think.
The last frontier.
Ahoy, matey. Put on your
cap. I don't know if I'd be saying ahoy, matey on an Alaskan cruise, but.
By the way, I'm looking at a photo of Christopher Walken, and I know who it is, but I don't know the accent that you say apparently everybody knows how to do.
He doesn't have an accent. It's just like his speaking cadence.
Okay. I'll have to listen to that.
Have you heard, but you've heard, I got a prescription.
What?
Or no, what is it? I got a fever, and the only prescription is more cowbell.
It's just he does the more cowbell stuff from SNL?
Oh my God, you are so young. Yes.
I know the more cowbell sketch, but I just, it's not like it's ingrained in my brain. I don't know who's in the sketch. I know Will Ferrell's in it.
Yeah, he is.
At least he's in one iteration of it, but there you go. That was pretty good, though, I feel like. Even though I don't know what you're like, I don't know the original voice off the top of my head. That sounded like it was probably a good impression. I
don't think anybody can do a bad Christopher Walken impression. I
guess. He must be. I mean, I didn't realize he was one of the most highly, or I guess, easy to impersonate people. But while Dustin is still around, for those of you looking on YouTube, he is currently his screen's black. What we're gonna do, this seems like an opportune time to go back into the call logs, and we're going to play a call who again, if you didn't hear earlier, last week I decided to, well, first of all, I guess going a little even further, I was talking about how I'm not necessarily afraid to poop with the door open, to use the restroom with the door open, whether I'm home by myself or if the wife is home. And I believe it seemed like I was the only person who felt that way. And if that's the case, so be it. But I implored the audience to, if they dared, give us a call and let us know what their thoughts are, whether it be on that or their own endeavors. And we did get one taker, and I think I'm just going to let it roll for us, Dustin. So here we go.
This is Willard. I was just wanting to let y'all know that I do poop with the door open because I like others to smell of it. It's an enhancing smell. I've had people tell me that it's fresh as a garden. And I've done it in public, and that went over so well. I found that others don't like the smell of it, even if it's country garden fresh. But I was just wanting to let that be known on the show that I do poop with the door open.
And that's it. Trying to collect myself here. I guess I'll start here.
The rest of the show. My dog thinks I'm crying because I'm laughing so hard.
I guess I'll start with this as we try to get things back on the rails. Dustin, do you think that was a real story?
I don't know. I'm not going to recover from this, John.
His name was he said his name was Willard. So Willard, thank you for the call and thank you for the honesty, I guess.
So
I love it. Do I need to read the transcript again? That probably won't help things, will it?
That doesn't help anything. No, I need to like collect myself here. Mal brown cow. I do. It's not gonna work.
I love it.
I think I can't stop laughing.
I hate that Mitchell's not on here for this, but again.
So I'm gonna try to get through this as best as I can. I'm sorry if you can't understand me, because I know I've got sometimes when I'm laughing really hard, I like wheeze, and it sounds like I'm dying.
Okay. The other part of it is that like you and Mitchell normally don't, unless I tell you beforehand what these messages are about.
Yeah.
And I see the transcripts beforehand. I usually screen them just to make sure nothing completely out of line is said. But
I'm at a bit of a crossroads here. I don't believe the part in
About doing it in
this
public,
in
probably.
public. Yeah, that one it's skeptical. Now, did you say? Do you know this person?
No, I don't. His
Okay,
name
so
is
I don't.
Willard.
Okay, so here's the thing. So I don't know by that name if I know this person either. However, one of my best friends in high school I don't know how this happened, but people used to call him Willard. That's not his name, but people used but I don't know that he would have that cadence.
Yeah.
So I'm trying to figure out if it was a very good acting job or if this was a real person. Like this has thrown. I'm shook right now, John.
The only Willard I'm aware of, and it's not even somebody that I know, it's Fred Willard, the actor, the late actor, I should say.
Could you imagine if we? If he's dead, then that doesn't help us. I was going to say, could you imagine if somebody famous called into this show?
Yeah, what would Fred Willard, if he was still alive, be doing listening to Out of Touch?
That was a great call. Let me tell you.
If Mitchell doesn't listen to the show, we're absolutely replaying this for him next week.
Yes, and I will laugh just as hard next week when we replay it. I do need back up, slow down. I do need Mitchell to listen to this show and call in so I can hear his response to that.
And it'll be good proof. And we won't even remind him to listen. It'll have to be on his own accord, and that'll just show whether or not he prioritizes the Out of Touch podcast in his daily routine. So, yeah, there we go. Thanks again, Willard. I guess, call us again in the future. Whoever you may be. If I am skeptical myself, especially if you went as far as to say that you've done it in public. I mean, again, you never know, though. If people are having a bad night and, you know where I'm going. If you're just having one of those bad nights and you can't help it, I mean, maybe that's what he's referring to. But, Willard, we're glad to have you on board and welcome to the Out of Touch family. Subscribe if you haven't already, because you're definitely somebody that I think fits the type of, I don't know, the type of wackiness that we look for, if that makes sense.
Yeah, for sure.
I got a Christmas party coming up already this weekend. Why is there a big thumbs up on your screen? Did you see that?
I did see. Is there a ghost?
I've never seen that. I guess it could have appeared on your phone screen, but I don't know how that would have happened. I've never seen that before.
I have no idea what just happened. All right.
Well, maybe we'll see it again. Or maybe it's the ghost of Fred Willard giving us the thumbs up.
He's doing a great acting job, but perhaps people like the show and they're able to like it now. I don't know. Well, we're not streaming live, so none of this makes sense.
I know. I said that wouldn't be possible.
Let's continue on. Okay, you've got a Christmas party coming up. I have a Christmas party coming up, so let's talk Christmas parties.
That's right. Christmas parties. I don't like having them early, though. So I would say I have them this weekend, but, sometimes family things happen. You got to push things up so you can get everybody together on the same day. And it's just weird. It's only going to be December 9th. And by the time that party is over with, I believe like 75% of the events that I have planned for the Christmas season will be over with. And it's weird thinking about that, the fact that it's only just into December and you still have almost, or I guess a little under 3 weeks until actual Christmas. But I am looking forward to it. I'm excited about it. My family does a Dirty Santa. I know this game has multiple names depending on where you live. White Elephant, Yankee Swap. And I already mentioned Dirty Santa. There may be another one. Honestly, Dirty Santa is probably the dumbest name of the three that I said. But it's the one that we call it.
Right.
But I guess that's just what you get down here in the Louisville area of Kentucky. Honestly, all three names are kind of stupid if you ask me. Like, do we know the origins? Dustin, first of all, do you know what I'm talking about? I'm sure, right?
I do know what you're talking about. It's the I don't know, tradition, but it's the process of like you get somebody a gift that I guess different people operate different. Like sometimes it's like a goofy gift, sometimes it's like a meaningful gift, but it's basically you don't know who you're supposed to get or get it, or you know who you are getting. you don't know who you're getting the gift from.
That's Secret Santa. That's Secret Santa.
Oh,
that's where it's like you purposefully pick something out for somebody, but they don't know that you have them. We do that as well for a different section of my family.
I thought this was all part of the same scheme.
I guess there may be iterations where there is that, but so Dirty Santa or whatever other name you choose is where everyone buys a gift and you put it, let's just say, like in a pile in the middle, and everyone draws a number, and you go in the order in which, from the number you draw 1 through whatever that, like 15 or whatever, and you just select just a random gift. You open it, that's yours. Number 2 goes, they have the option to either pick a new gift that hasn't been opened or steal the one that's already been opened.
Okay. Yeah, you're right.
So yeah.
It's been a long time since I've done any of these.
So yeah, so I guess that's not a regular tradition for your Christmas party endeavors.
I don't get invited to parties a lot, so.
And plus, you're kind of a traveling nomad. You've kind of been on your it's not like all of your family's in one area.
They're not. Mine is. And I'm just gonna say this, and people probably don't like me saying this, but I don't care. The holidays by yourself or like with one other person, that to me is idealistic. I don't want to be, because for whatever reason on Christmas Eve, Christmas Day, Thanksgiving Day, people lose their minds and they're a bunch of lunatics. And I just want to sit in my pajamas and watch football or Christmas movies. Now, I do visit family like during the holiday season, right? Yeah. Like I'll see them during the holiday season, and they're like they're normally calm and there's not a lot of stress. But then it just gets to that day and I'm like, why does this have to be chaotic? So I just there was like at first it kind of sucked. The very first Christmas I spent by myself and the Thanksgiving because I had to for my job. But then I was like, I woke up when I wanted to. I didn't have to be anywhere. I just made food for myself. Oh.
So are you the kind of person who also, like, I feel like you're the kind of person, Dustin, correct me if I'm wrong, you'd much rather enjoy Christmas like on a beach than some place where it might snow half a foot?
I just want to be, I don't even care where it is. I just want to be away from stress.
That's a good answer. Look at that.
So like, and I'm just going to give you an example. So like for Thanksgiving, it was just, I went to St. Louis, Abby and I did our own thing. And that was, for me, that's perfect. Like it was just us two. We had a nice meal. We watched football. The perfect holiday, right? So, and I've had to do that stuff on my own. Like it's just me, and I will cook up a hungry man and I'll be just happy if it's just me. So any place there's no stress. Yes.
See, so I respect all that, by the way. First of all, the one thing, if you were going to say that you prefer warm weather Christmas, first of all, if you do like that, that's fine. But if you're the kind of person who, like, if you're not going to the beach, like if you're not going to a place where it's legitimately supposed to be warm, and you prefer to have a non-snowy, let's just say 60 degrees, 70 degree day for Christmas, what is wrong with you? That is not what Christmas is. That is a spring day in April. Christmas, it is supposed to be, at least where I live, I'd like it if it was in the 30s or 40s. Give us a little snow on the ground. It doesn't need to be a blizzard. Last year we had, and this was probably at least in my lifetime, the only time this has ever happened. The days leading up to Christmas, like the 23rd and 24th, we got a pretty decent amount of snow, and the temperature was like in the single digits for several days. But again, that didn't bother me the way that it bothers some people. But some people want it to be 70 degrees and sunny all the time. And again, if that's what you like, that's fine. Just move to Florida or something.
Get out of John's Kentucky, fans.
Get out of my Kentucky or Midwest, anywhere in the Midwest, really. I guess Kentucky's not really the Midwest, but I live close enough to Indiana to where I just kind of put myself into that Midwestern category.
That's
and
fair.
I used to live in Indiana anyway.
I almost brought out my younger self and about called everybody fam.
Fam.
People is what I should say. I don't. So I disagree. I mean, I don't.
I know you're not a big cold weather guy, and a lot of people, unless you just love all of the activities that you can do, you know, whatever that may be. A lot of things you really can't do around here, honestly.
Here's what I would sign up for, John. I would sign up for this. Again, if I get to have my own Christmas of me and one other person or me and myself, whatever, I would sign up for snow on Christmas Eve and snow on Christmas Day, and then gone. Out. Get out.
I think that's a lot of people.
Yeah. See, I can deal with snow on those 2 days. After that,
I used to hate, and I don't want to get hateful when I say this, but I used to hate seeing people, like if it was a nice, like the 70-degree Christmas I was describing earlier, I used to hate seeing people on Twitter, you know, raving about how awesome it is, because it just doesn't feel right to me. And then maybe that makes me a traditionalist, or maybe that just makes me, I don't know, a loser to just want it to be like that.
John is either a poll question on Twitter. Is John a loser or a traditionalist? Those are two very different things.
You can be both, probably.
You could be both, or both. Option C, both.
Yeah. Maybe we'll post that question.
Yeah. I mean, it's funny because growing up, doesn't everybody that was lived around it loved snow?
Yes. I'll let you finish. I also feel like it just snowed a lot more in general when we were children, but also that may just be something I've made up in my head, idealistically. You know what I mean?
Well, it's hard for me to comment on that because I have not lived in the Midwest in 8 years. So this is going to be my first winter with probably
you've been
snow.
in Georgia and Florida.
I've been in Georgia and Florida where it legitimately snowed one time, and it was for an hour, and it was just flurries on Christmas Eve.
And people probably still panicked.
Correct. They did panic.
That's the other. This is why I would never want to live in the South.
Oh, come on.
Again, I love going to the beach and that kind of thing, but I could never live in the South long term because I could not deal with the yearly, I guess, or at least maybe even semi-yearly panic whenever you get a half an inch of snow.
Yes, you could.
I could what?
You can. I love that you're confused by this. You absolutely could live with it. You know why? Because you grew up with it. So there's no panic on your end. Everybody else is panicking. You're fine.
I guess this is just me wanting other people to understand that it's not a big deal. But again, that's all they know. That's all they know.
It is all they know. Here's the nice thing, though, John. Let's say you did live in the great state of Georgia. Love the state of Georgia. Love North Atlanta. Shout out everybody that's listening there, which is probably nobody. But I do.
Maybe Willard's from Atlanta.
Maybe.
We don't know where he's from.
I hope so. Big fan. I'm going to come down to Atlanta and visit here in the next couple weeks. Anyway, let's say there's a forecast for like an inch of snow. Places in the South will shut down. So if you have a job, you either A, get to work from home, or you don't have to go to work, or B, if you work in radio, which probably they would still have to go to work because you still got to play stuff on the radio and you still got to do talk shows. You know that the highways are clear because everybody else has to stay home.
It's not a bad thought.
And you are like, this is so easy for me. Like, I would go out. I can't drive in the snow now probably because it's been so long. But when there was panic and there's nobody on the roads or nobody out and about because they're panicked, oh, you can go grocery shopping.
And the one thing I will say that people in the South, and this even happens in Kentucky quite a bit, that makes the snow worse is that you live in that fine line where it switches off from freezing rain to snow so much that it's a lot more slick than it is just straight snow. So really the roads in these areas when that kind of stuff comes about, they probably are a lot more dangerous than those up north because they're not as prepared for it with their transportation departments and stuff like that.
I can tell you the number of times that I had that issue. 0.
There you go. Dustin proving once again why he is
now
a superior being.
I am the superior being. Now I know, like, you have to get pretty far south though. Like, I think maybe Atlanta might be, because I got a friend who lives in Nashville, who they deal with snow sometimes and some of that ice stuff. You just said in Louisville. I know in the Blue Ridge Mountains they have to deal with it, which is in North Carolina and North Georgia. So I think you have to get pretty far south to where you aren't really dealing with that. But if you get south enough, it's just rain, baby. There's none of that freezing, wintry mix crap.
Since you've hopped around a bunch, what location was your favorite Christmas spent in?
Ooh, that's a good question. Favorite Christmas? This is tough. I always liked, so I don't know if this is probably going to fit into your category a little bit.
Okay.
I loved Christmas when I was living in Kennesaw. First of all, that place is always going to have it's where I kind of learned to be an adult, even though I was 30 some years old. So it always has like a special place in my heart. So I have very fond memories of it. But it kind of had what you were talking about, in that it was probably between 35 and 45 degrees around that time of year. And then, but it never snowed. Well, it snowed that one time on Christmas Eve, but it didn't really snow. It was still cold. You got pine trees. Everything was really well decorated. You kind of got the sense that it was Christmas. You just didn't have to deal with or worry about 6 inches of snow or ice or any of that stuff. Plus, again, down there I was by myself, and I hate to say this, but I had an excuse not to go to family on Christmas because I was working, and also I was 8 hours away from both sides. So I just got.
So that's a good place to be. And you said something at the very beginning of that. You may have seen me type it in my phone that I want to talk about in the future, because I think it could be a good conversation. Learning to be an adult. And you said you feel like you didn't learn that until you were in your 30s. I think that's, and I'm not just talking about that specifically, but both you, Mitchell, and I discussing when we feel like we had to learn to be an adult, like at what point in our lives. And again, maybe I haven't even done it yet. I'm freaking 26. Sometimes I feel like I've learned to be an adult. There are times where I feel like I'm still 15, at least maybe I act 15. So
yeah, that'll be an interesting. Yeah, that'll be an interesting conversation.
Yeah, so we'll save that one. We'll bag that one for the future. Thanks for checking us out. Oh, go ahead, Dustin.
No, wait, I got one more question here. Did you talk about the Christmas party that you wanted to talk to? Because you mentioned it, and then I kind of hijacked the entire conversation.
Well, no, I was basically just mentioning that it was happening, what we do, and that's kind of the gist of it. I wanted it to turn into a conversation of, taking the secret/dirty Santa thing and just expanding upon, which we did. So no, you didn't hijack anything.
Okay, good to know.
I love when things just go where they please. So
I agree.
And that's that. So thanks again for checking us out. As always, hit the hotline 502-830-9195 and tell us about Christmas. Good Christmases, bad Christmases. Do you hate Christmas? Do you even celebrate Christmas? Do you use the restroom publicly during Christmas with the door open? I don't know. Don't answer that one. But yeah, also subscribe, share the show if you would do so kindly. You don't have to, but we would appreciate it. We are still trying to get to that subscriber goal to do the live stream, and yeah, we appreciate if you would hit that button, please, so I can feed my unborn children.
There we go.
Just kidding. Yeah. So I guess with that being said, let's go ahead and fade up that music. Dustin, hope you have a wonderful week, and we'll I guess we'll catch up next week and figure out what's going on with Mitchell and his golf outing.
That's right. I can't wait.
Well, there you go. Thanks again. We appreciate you guys. We'll talk to you next time.